Well, here in New York today, after 5 days of deliberation, an anonymous federal court jury convicted 3 crime bosses of serving on the so-called Mafia Commission. 5 lower-ranking mob figures were also convicted on all counts for carrying out the commission's orders. Authorities had contended that since 1930s, that organized crime had a national board of directors carving out territory and settling disputes. Now, an FBI man says that all the members are either in the grave or headed to prison. More on the story from Bob O'Brien.
It was February of 1985 when the most powerful men in the American underworld surfaced at Manhattan Criminal Court to face charges of extortion and labor bribery that dominated the concrete industry in New York City. There were also charges of loan sharking and murder. Back then, Genevieve's family boss, Anthony "Fat Tony" Salerno, called the 22-count federal indictment a bunch of bull. Then Gambino family chief Paul Castellano shook his head in a negative way when a reporter asked Castellano if he thought the indictment would send him to jail. A mob hit team on East 46th Street dispatched Big Polly and his bodyguard in another way in a double assassination last December. In November of 1985, Gambino underboss Agnello Della Croce died of natural causes. The trial of accused Bonanno family boss Philip Rusty Rastelli was eventually severed from the original case, but in court today, all of the remaining defendants were found guilty of all charges brought against them. The jurors believed the government prosecutors when they said the mob commission, run by the 8 defendants and other hoods, settled territory disputes, divided loot, made new Mafia members, and okayed high-level hits.
I think it's going to take a long time to replace the kind of network that these men put together. I mean, these men had personal relationships and experience going back over decades, which was a kind of, they were kind of gray eminences of the mob. And there just hopefully won't be people like that out on the street now that can pull this mafia together.
Colombo family boss Carmine Persico Jr. may have been the one to suffer most today. Earlier this week, he was sentenced to 39 years in prison on a previous rackets conviction. Persico couldn't even blame today's conviction on his lawyer, since the mobster chose to act as his own attorney throughout the trial. Stanley Meyer was Persico's legal advisor.
I think he did a great job. But the way it turns out, it doesn't matter. In other words, it's impossible. I think the whole system is geared against any of these defendants.
7 of the mob biggies convicted here today face more than 300 years of jail time each. Anthony Indelicato could get a 40-year sentence for his role as one of 3 triggermen who rubbed out Carmine Galente and 2 others back in 1979. Law enforcement officials say there is now a power vacuum at the top of La Cosa Nostra, with all of its old leaders either in jail or in graves. A great deal of turmoil is expected as other Mafia dons struggle to take control of the mob. From Manhattan Federal Court, Bob O'Brien, Channel 5 News.
And a few minutes from now, Frank Grimes will show you the homes of 2 of the crime bosses convicted today in our special series, Where the Mob Lives.